What Lonzo Thinks is a wide ranging, free flowing discussion where I offer up my unsolicited views on everything from movies, television, sports, religion, pop culture, politics, you name it. If it's happening, I'm talking about it. My thoughts are unsolicited, unscripted, unasked for, unruly, unkept, unkempt. But you're listening and I appreciate it anyway. One day I'll probably get sued, but that means I'm doing something right. All right, anyways, the college football playoff. Ooh, man. First of all, told ya. Feels good to be right. I got a lot of ribbing from some of my listeners out there who give me a hard time online, saying some nasty and mean things that I was wrong, especially about the Oklahoma and Georgia game. But I knew I was right, and told ya. What's up to my partner Chan Ayers? He couldn't make it tonight, but we're gonna push on, and I'm going to offer my unsolicited views on the college football playoff, my thoughts about the Georgia Oklahoma game, also my thoughts about the Clemson Alabama game, and my thoughts on Monday night's championship game. All right, first of all, Oklahoma and Georgia. What a game! Wow. Whew. I was off the chain with that game. I felt like I had played. I know it's stupid. I know it's crazy. I'm just a fan and everything, but my heart was racing. My pulse was up. My head was throbbing. I had to go outside, do some jumping jacks, and take a Zantac just to calm myself down. I told my girlfriend to get me a Chem 7 and a CBC. I didn't think I was going to make it. Okay, well, anyways, um, I called the game. If you listen to the previous podcast on the college football playoff, I predicted that Georgia would win in a tight battle, a high scoring battle. I didn't get the score quite right. I thought both teams would score in the 30s, but of course they both scored well in the 40s. Or Georgia scored 54 and Oklahoma scored 48. And if you're a fan of defense, it really wasn't the game for you. If you're a fan of offense, wow, one hell of a game. Now, when the game started out, I was kind of wary of the fact that Oklahoma would start fast. They are a fast starting team. I've watched probably 6 or 7 of their games this year, and Oklahoma, they script their plays. I don't know if they scripted them in this game, but they usually script their plays, and they generally have a very aggressive game plan, especially starting out. They like to kind of put their throats on their opposition, get them down, make them one dimensional, get them out of their game plans, and then just kind of run away from them and salt the game away in the third and fourth quarters with the big lead. And it looked like that is what they were able to do to Georgia starting out. Um, my first impressions of the first quarter, and what I'll do, I kind of just go through each quarter as I do my analysis. In the first quarter, I was once again I was not surprised at how aggressive Oklahoma was when they came out. The up tempo of their offense, and I thought that Georgia played kind of soft, especially in their pass rush. I think they were trying, and I predicted they would try to bottle up Baker Mayfield and just make it difficult for him to pass, close up some windows. But their scheme was a lot of misdirection, and they featured the run more than I thought they would. And number 24, Rodney Anderson, great last name. Rodney Anderson was very aggressive as well, and he's a hell of a running back. And he really was gashing the offense and put Georgia back on their heels, which really opened up the play action and opened up the passing game. And they were running a lot of middle routes with their tight ends. The big guy Andrews, I think he was number 81. He's like 6'5", one of the best tight ends in the country, and he was getting open a lot. And also the smaller guy, number 36, I forget his name. He was also very aggressive as well across the middle, and they just kind of gashed the Bulldogs in the first quarter, and got out to a comfortable lead. And I think the thing that kind of gave me comfort watching the game. Obviously, I'm a Georgia fan, but I try to be as objective as possible. I always try to be as objective as possible when I watch football, and especially when I offer up commentary. Um, I felt that I felt kind of emboldened at how Georgia stuck to the running game. They did not give in and become one dimensional. And I think, especially in such a big game, the instinct would be to try to match Oklahoma score for score and get out of your game plan, but no, they stayed the course. They kept running with Nick Chubb and Sony Michel. And he played a hell of a game. He was awesome. So did Nick Chubb, and they also broke the record for the most rushing yards by a duo of backs in college football history. So that was great as well. But they stuck to the game. Georgia's offensive line really dominated in the trenches, and really got Oklahoma back on their heels. And I wasn't surprised about that because Oklahoma's defense is not good, especially their run defense. It's pretty porous, and their decision making on defense was pretty damn awful. They seemed very confused, didn't really know how to get into position. They didn't call many audibles on defense or adjust to Georgia's motion, Georgia's switching, their their audible calling. They didn't really adjust. And the quarterback for Georgia, Jake Fromm, who played a great game, he really managed the game great, and he was aggressive on offense as well. Really did a good job of getting everyone in the right place at the right time, and really adjusting the offense and calling the checks that they need to call to keep Oklahoma off balance. And that's what really kind of kept them in the game, especially in that first quarter, which was kind of back and forth, up and down the field. And it was kind of hard for either team to stop the other. Although Oklahoma was a little bit more successful stopping Georgia and shut out to that 21-7 lead. But I think the tide really turned when down 21-7, Sony Michel broke off a 75-yard run to pay dirt, which it kind of served as notice that no matter what, they were going to stick to their run game. And the bad side to that was that Georgia's time of possession was really short because they had a lot of big plays, and their defense stayed on the field a lot, which was kind of a concern as well. I thought they might get kind of tired. In the second quarter, things kind of progressed as the same. Oklahoma really put their foot in the gas and really kind of pushed out against the Bulldogs into a 31-14 lead. The play calling by Oklahoma, their coach Lincoln Riley, also calls. He's also the offensive coordinator. He calls the plays. Was very inventive. I think that he really studied his film. He set up matchups against Georgia that really worked to their advantage. And in the first half, Georgia did a poor job of really making adjustments on the fly, especially when they went up tempo. They kind of seemed lost, and they paid the price for it. But the measure of a good team is even when you're being taken advantage of and you're down, you stay the course. And I never felt like the defense was panicking. I think they felt like they probably seen everything from Oklahoma that they were going to see in that first half, and they felt confident that going into the second half they would make the proper adjustments and be able to bottle them up a little bit. So, and I think it was pretty clear that it's clear when you watch college football, well, any football, you can tell when a team is well coached and well prepared. Even though they were getting gashed by Oklahoma, you could tell that the Georgia defense was well prepared, and that they had confidence that their scheme would eventually win out against Oklahoma's offense. At least that was my takeaway from it. And I think I do believe that Georgia was outcoached in the first half, and I made that clear. I actually was posting on Facebook as the game went on, and I said that in the first half that Oklahoma totally outcoached Georgia, and I think they did. I think they really schemed. They out-schemed Georgia by a wide margin, and it showed on the scoreboard. And but the true tale of a great team and a great coaching staff is how you make adjustments at halftime, and that is what happened. Well, first of all, Georgia was down 31-14 going into halftime when Oklahoma chose to squib kick, and the up man for Georgia snagged the ball and gave them great field position. And then they went on to kick a 55-yard field goal, which, by the way, was a Rose Bowl record. Now, this didn't cost Oklahoma the game, but it was a pivotal point in the game, and I think the commentators made a good point of that. That 3 points that Georgia got going into the second half really kind of switched the momentum a little bit and gave them some extra confidence going into the second half. Even though it was still a 31-17 deficit, it just felt like it was the boost that they needed going into halftime on the heels of of a score. So as we come into the third the third quarter, I thought that it was critical that Georgia get a stop um, in the first series because Oklahoma got the ball first, and they did just that. They had a three and out, and then they came right back on the first or second play after they got the ball. Nick Chubb broke off a 50-yard touchdown run, and once that happened, I just knew that it was just going to be a matter of time before they would take the lead and ultimately salt the game away. And that's exactly what happened. Georgia's defense really stiffened up, and I think one of the things they did was on defense they blitzed a little bit more. They really disguised their defense better against Baker Mayfield. You can tell that he was a bit confused, and I think they also confused the Oklahoma coaching staff as well. And the defense really started to tee off on Baker Mayfield. And also, they played tougher against the pass. They came up a little bit, played tighter man to man, really took away those quick slants and those dig routes that Oklahoma was running in the first half. And also, they keyed more on the run. Roquan Smith, Georgia's All-American linebacker, became more of a presence in the middle as well. And you could tell that they really knew what Oklahoma's triggers were. And it appears that Oklahoma did not make any adjustments at halftime. And I think, why would you? I mean, you're up 31-17. Your offense has been just gashing Georgia the whole time. I think they were confident enough thinking that they would be able to keep that same momentum going, and their offense will still be as productive. So, and that did not happen, and Georgia was able to take the lead. And then going into the fourth quarter, of course, Georgia faltered a little bit. There was a big fumble by Sony Michel that was run back for a touchdown, and that put Oklahoma back in the lead, and it really took the wind out of Georgia's sails. But for a brief moment, this team is really resilient. It would have been easy just to kind of after that big comeback, they came back from 17 points down, took the lead, seemed like they were in control. Then all of a sudden, boom! Oklahoma scored 14 quick points, and boom, you're down again. I think a lesser team would have got demoralized and folded, but no, they got really resilient. They got to stop, and they drove down the field, and Nick Chubb ran the wild dog and was able to score and to tie the game and took it into overtime. And this is where the pressure really mounted. Boy, I'll tell you now, my heart was, whew, my God. I was so nervous. I couldn't barely watch because sudden death overtime in college football, it's different from pro football. Of course, it's not sudden death or anything like that. Both teams get a chance to score, and you start from the 25-yard line, and you match scores. And after the second overtime, if you're still tied, you have to go for two if you score a touchdown. So both teams played pretty tentative in the first overtime. State played the coast to the vest. I think they were playing for field goals. They weren't going. Neither coach wanted to try anything too elaborate or too risky because if you get a turnover, then the other team just come back, kick a field goal, and the game's over. So I think that was one of the things that really kind of weighed into their decision making. So Georgia is able to kick a field goal and take the lead, and then Oklahoma comes out, of course, and they kick a field goal to tie the game. And in the second overtime, they kind of flip-flop because Georgia had the ball first. So in the second overtime, Oklahoma gets the ball first, and they were a little bit more aggressive this time, but they were aggressive running plays behind the line of scrimmage, misdirection, kind of trickery type plays. But they weren't very aggressive going down the field, which I thought was a fatal mistake because you got the Heisman Trophy winner, Baker Mayfield, one of the top players in all of college football, a great quarterback. Cockiness aside, he's a great quarterback, and you really didn't give him a chance to win the game with his arm. So Georgia gets the stop, and of course the rest is history. Lorenzo Carter, all 6'6" of him, is able to penetrate the line and block the kick. And I knew the game was over then because all Georgia really had to do was position the ball in the middle of the field, bring out their kicker, Rodrigo, what is his name? Blankenship, to kick the field goal. And the odds of the kick getting blocked are remote at best. And he's a really, really good kicker. So I felt confident that Georgia would win the game. But poetic justice prevailed because Sony Michel, who had fumbled the ball earlier, they gave Oklahoma the lead, and he was kind of like the GOAT at that point. He comes out in the Wild Dog offensive set and runs 27 yards for the touchdown, and I lost my mind. Oh my God, that was like nirvana for me. And once again, like I said, I try to be objective when it comes to sports, especially when I do my podcast and if I'm discussing sports. I try not to be a homer or anything like that, but I am a Georgia fan, and I was very happy that they won. But at the same time, I did feel kind of bad for Oklahoma because they played a great game. They really did. They really played hard. They just did not have the talent level nor the coaching that Georgia had because Oklahoma outcoached Georgia in the first half, but in the second half, Georgia just trumped Oklahoma in the second half. Strategy wise, scheme wise, coaching wise, they really took over the game. And I said on my Facebook feed that in order for Georgia, and I said this at halftime, in order for Georgia to win, they had to hold um, Oklahoma to no more than 10 points in the second half, and I was close. They held them to 17 points, and that was just enough for them to pull out the victory. And there was a lot of controversy going on after the game. I'm sure you've seen it on the TV, where one of the Georgia players, Davin Bellamy, screamed at Baker Mayfield, "Humble yourself, kid. Humble yourself." And I've kind of leapt on that, and that hashtag "Humble yourself" is my favorite thing right now. I've been kind of just plugging that in all over the place. Humble yourself. Um, but and that was all because everybody knows Baker Mayfield. He's kind of an asshole. He's kind of like Johnny Manziel 2.0. He's very brash, very cocky, very boastful, and he was really, really kind of showing out in the first half, throat slashing and saying it's over, and really taunting the Georgia players once they got up to that big lead and everything. And he was really demonstrative and just really showing out and showing his ass. Very immature for someone who's supposed to be a leader and Heisman Trophy winner. He really didn't show a whole lot of class. So for them to give a big lead and lose the game was kind of poetic justice. And seeing him with his hands on his knees and his head down really kind of felt good. I hope the kid really learns a lesson that it's a 4-quarter game. It's a 60-minute game. And if you go overtime, it's a little bit more than that. Not too many games get won at halftime, especially when you're playing against top-notch competition. Because those kids from Georgia, they really fought hard. They never gave up. And Jake Fromm said it best. They kept chopping wood. They knew that eventually that Oklahoma would cave in. That's what they did. And huge shout out to Kirby Smart and his coaching staff. They really made the proper adjustments in the second half, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Jim Chaney, the offensive coordinator, called a great game. He really used their strengths. Like I said, for Jake Fromm, the freshman quarterback from Warner Robins, my hometown, really did a great job of managing the game. He was aggressive when he needed to be aggressive. He made some good, safe, short throws. He stayed within his box. He didn't try to do anything outside of his skill level, which is ultimate signs, one of the ultimate signs of leadership and maturity, especially for such a young kid. He knows his limitations. He's not going to do anything. He's not Baker Mayfield. I mean, he doesn't have a strong arm. He's not someone who can gun the ball. He's precise though, and he's smart, and he appears to be a quick learner, and he's very intelligent. He's not only just smart, he's intelligent, and the way that he ran the offense and made adjustments and read the defense was magnificent. And he has a bright future ahead of him. He might not be an NFL level quarterback, but as a college player, he's Aaron Murray 2.0 to me, and I think he's going to have a strong career at Georgia, and hopefully lead them to several more SEC championships and hopefully a national championship. So the Rose Bowl was a classic, one of the best ever. I rank it with last year's USC Penn State game and also the USC Texas game with Vince Young as the 3 best Rose Bowls I've ever seen. And I think because of what was at stake, it's the greatest Rose Bowl of all time. And I'm happy that Georgia won. Kudos to Oklahoma. I know a lot of folks say neither team deserved to lose. Bullshit. Oklahoma deserved to lose. Georgia deserved to win because they were down by 17 points. They never gave up. They came back and they took it. Oklahoma should not have lost that game. When you have a 17-point lead in a national playoff game, the Rose Bowl, you really shouldn't lose that lead. Falcon fans, we know how it feels. So Georgia wins. Now on to Clemson versus Alabama. I'm gonna be upfront and honest. I did not watch this game. I watched bits and pieces of it. I was so wired, and I mean when I say wired, my heart was like racing after the Georgia game. And like I said, I had to go outside and do some jumping jacks and take a Zantac just to calm myself down. I will repeat, I was like, I'm going to need a Chem 7 and a CBC or I'm not going to make it. I was really out of it. Plus, I didn't want to keep neglecting my girl on New Year's Day and not being attentive to her. She's not a big football fan, so she let me watch the game without any drama. So I wanted to pay some attention to her and have some good quality time with her as well. So I peeped the game a couple times. I saw that Alabama was in full control of the game from the very beginning. So I really didn't feel like I was missing much. The game was never in doubt. I did go back and watch a little bit of it in the replays. And I could see that not Oklahoma, but Alabama's defense was well coached. Of course, Nick Saban, he when he can game plan for you and he likes to take away what you do best, he's really great at that. I think their secondary played really well. And I said before in the podcast with Chan a few weeks ago that Kelly Bryant, even though he looks just like Deshaun Watson, he's not as good of a passer. And they really bottled him up and made him throw the ball. And he showed that he was not up to the task, at least not just yet. Might be a good learning experience for him, but he just was not ready as of yet. And Clemson's offense, I said this before in my analysis, in my predictions earlier, that Clemson's offense I never felt like they created offense. They were opportunistic offense. I never felt like they were an offensive threat at all. And I saw plenty of their games this year, and I was never really impressed with their offense. I didn't think it had a whole lot of imagination. It was kind of vanilla for a team that had such a dynamic quarterback in Kelly Bryant. And maybe that's because they didn't have confidence in his passing ability to kind of open up the playbook and be a little bit more imaginative. And I think it cost them against Alabama. So the trilogy between Alabama and Clemson, it really came out, with the whimper and not with the bang. So I really didn't feel like I missed much, not watching that game. So that's that. I really can't say much about it because, like I said, I didn't watch the game in its entirety. I probably watched maybe 15, 20 minutes of it, if that. And like I said, when pulling up the repeat viewing, the repeat showing, I really didn't pay much attention to it again, even though I had it on. It was just anticlimactic to me because it wasn't an exciting game. There's nothing memorable about it. It was just a blowout by Alabama and their defense, their stout defense. I will say this much about Alabama. Their defense was stout, and their offense was unimaginative as well. They really played it close to the vest, very conservative, and that's really all they had to do because Clemson was no threat to them. So with Alabama, when they need to open up the playbook and be a little bit more aggressive, they can. Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback. He's mobile. He has a strong arm. He's not super accurate, but he's good on the deep ball, and he's effective enough in the short game to be a threat. And of course, with his legs, he's even more of a threat. So there's that. And their running game has always been strong. So now, as far as my analysis for the upcoming battle, Georgia versus Alabama, at the Mercedes-Benz Dome, Atlanta, my home. Wow. I'm gonna be honest. I'm scared. As a Georgia fan, one of the things that give me hope and confidence, shall I say, is that Nick Saban only has a few days to scheme, and that could be to our advantage. I'm sure they've already put together a solid plan even before the Sugar Bowl. Just in case they won the game against Clemson, they have a framework in place as to what they're going to do against Georgia. And I think one of the things they're going to do is try to take away the running game. Alabama's run defense is much better than Oklahoma, so you're not going to see 50 and 75-yard runs from Georgia. They might break some big runs, but it won't be anything as consistent as it was against Oklahoma. So I think Georgia's going to have to be a little bit more imaginative when it comes to their running game and also incorporating the pass into it. I've said this before. Alabama's secondary is not as good as it was in recent past. So I think there's an opportunity there if we want to try to give Jake Fromm a little bit more to do in the passing game. There may be some opportunities there. But Jim Chaney is a strong offensive coordinator, so I think he'll come together with an inventive attack to try to take advantage of Alabama's weaknesses on defense. And I think one of the things is they've been hurt by injuries, especially to the linebacking core. So I think it'll be a game where they're going to try to wear them down a little bit and just keep chopping wood when it comes to their defense. And hopefully in the late third, fourth quarter, have them worn down enough to where the running game can really take over. As far as Alabama on offense, I see them playing the same type of game they played against Clemson, close to the vest, kind of vanilla. Georgia really plays well against quarterbacks who are mobile, so I really don't. Georgia has such great speed, especially on the edge from Lorenzo Carter and Davin Bellamy, and of course the linebacking core. So I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of effectiveness from Jalen Hurt with his feet and with his legs. And like I said, and Georgia's pass defense is pretty solid, is rock solid. So I don't see Bama's passing game being super effective, especially on the deep ball. Georgia plays a good deep, plays the deep routes really well. So I think if Alabama's going to have any kind of success with the passing game, it'll be on the short passes, the quick hitches, the slants, and maybe some misdirection in the passing game as well. Some stuff in the backfield where they're kind of moving people all over the place and getting mismatches in the secondary. So I see that happening a bit. And Alabama's run game is just as strong as Georgia's, but Georgia's run defense is just as strong as Alabama's. So I see that kind of being more of a stalemate, especially early on in the game. Georgia played such a tough game out there in California with the time difference and everything. People saying that they may be a little tired, maybe a little worn out. I really don't see that happening. I mean, this is the biggest game of their lives. They were never play. Most of these guys will never play in a bigger game in their lives, except for some of the guys who go to the NFL and might one day find themselves in the Super Bowl. But most of these guys, they're never going to play football again after they leave Georgia, and this is the biggest game of their lives. If you can't get up for this, you have no business playing college football anyway. So I don't see that being a huge advantage for Alabama or a huge detriment to Georgia. I think they'll be hype enough and motivated enough to really have a high energy level. So I think it's going to come down to a war of attrition. Which team is better coached? Which team has a better scheme? Who takes advantage of mishaps? Will there be turnovers? Who takes advantage of those turnovers? Who plays well on special teams? And I think field goal kicking is gonna play a big part in it. Punting, the field position game, keeping the team back on their heels. I think both teams will be very aggressive, especially with some inventive blitzing, maybe some zone blitz packages. I just see it being a stalemate between the master and the pupil. Nick Saban against Kirby Smart, and as you well know, Kirby Smart was Nick's defensive coordinator for well over a decade, so he knows Alabama in and out. So I don't think there's anything that they can show Kirby Smart that he's not ready for, and vice versa. Because Kirby was there for 10 years, and Nick and his crew, they know Kirby. So I think this game is going to be a whole lot closer and lower scoring. So here's my pick. I'm picking Georgia to win 21-13. The game will be tied, or it'll be close. It'll be 14-13 going into the fourth quarter. And Georgia will score a touchdown to widen the lead, and they will take it 21-13 to win their first national championship since 1980, when Herschel Walker led them against Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl. That's my prediction. Not because I'm a homer. I honestly, truly believe that from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, Georgia has been the most consistent and been the best team in college football. without a doubt. They have played a great season, and I think they're going to cap it off with a national championship. I would not be surprised if Alabama wins. If it's a flip flop and Bama winning 20-14, I totally see that happening. And it's a tough game to call. Tough game to call. Two SEC teams. Atlanta's going to be hyped. I already hear that the tickets are almost impossible to get. The price is sky high. I can't go, so I'll be at home watching. That's all I want to do anyway. I want to watch it at home anyway, and I see myself shaking and shivering and and really having a hard time watching the game because my heart's gonna be racing and everything. Because I'm a huge Georgia fan. Of course, I want the Bulldogs to win, so I gotta have that confidence as well. But if I honestly believe that Alabama was better, that Alabama would win, I would say it. I would say I have no problem with calling my team out and saying, hey, if I don't think they're good enough, then I will say so. But I honestly believe that Georgia has the best team in college football. They're going to prove that on Monday night at 8:15, opening kickoff in the national championship game. So what do you think? Hit me up. Give me some comments. I got a lot of comments from folks on the previous podcast on the college football playoff. A lot of nasty retorts and everything. I love it. I love it that people are so passionate with their opinions and that they take my opinions to heart. They want to comment on it. So I appreciate that. I had a lot of Oklahoma fans jumping on and saying things to me and everything. So it feels good to gloat a little bit. So Oklahoma fans, eat it. Yeah, let me know what you think. Am I off base? Am I off base on the Oklahoma-Georgia game? Was I off base on the Clemson-Alabama game? Even though I didn't watch much of it, so I didn't really have a whole lot to say. Sorry about that. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you feel that my assessment, my analysis of the upcoming game is on point? Do you think it's going to play out that way? It's going to be a higher scoring game, maybe a lower scoring game, might be a field goal game, might be a 9-6 game. I can see anything happening. Either way, I think the Southern Hemisphere is going to tilt off its axis because Atlanta is going to be off the chain Monday night. SEC football in the national championship game. Maybe nobody else in the country wants to see it, but damn it, down here in the South, we love it. SEC football is back on top. It's the best in college football. It's been so for decades now. No other conference in college football can really measure up. We always have a team in the mix, and Monday night we got two of them. It's to be a cataclysmic battle. Saban against Smart. Georgia against Alabama. Final score 21-13 Georgia. Tell me what you think. Hit me up. Twitter @WhatLonzoThinks, Gmail whatlonzothinks@gmail.com. Hit me up on Patreon. Drop some loot on me if you want. I love it. But that's what I think. What do you think? Let me know, because this is What Lonzo Thinks. Bye.